Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today we're jumping right in, head first, with a single, pretty powerful Russian word, Tyurzak.
Tyurzak. 6 letters.
Right, and it packs a punch. Its meaning is, well, it's layered. It brings up images of severity, like a sharp harpoon.
Or sharpness like porcupine quills, maybe a blizzard, barbed wire even.
Exactly. It implies caution, too. But ultimately, it kind of boils down to one really striking image. A horn.
A horn, okay.
And that image, that horn, that's our central metaphor for this deep dive. We're looking at the evolution of the Russian prison system.
So represented by these 2 horns, you could say.
Precisely. One horn for the Tsarist era, the other for the Soviet period.
And we're drawing on some detailed accounts here.
We are, including some really powerful excerpts from the Gulag Archipelago, Solzhenitsyn's work.
Right, a monumental piece on the Soviet camps.
So our mission really is to unpack how these systems changed, how prisoners thought back, which they absolutely did, and the sometimes surprising shifts in power.
And what it actually meant to, keep your spirit alive behind those bars.
Yeah. It's a journey that really shows, I think, human resilience against, well, state control.
It does, and it reveals how even these incredibly brutal systems could sometimes be, well, almost porous, and how the struggle itself just changed so dramatically over time.
Okay, so let's start with that first horn, the Tsarist era. If you look at the early prisons, like Schlüsselburg Fortress, initially it was just grim, brutal. Prisoners lost their names, just numbers. Absolute silence was enforced.
Imagine that, just silence.
Cells always in shadow, frosted windows, asphalt floors. You got maybe 40 minutes of ventilation a day.
Barely enough to breathe, really.
And the food? Grits, cabbage soup, no meat, scholarly books, forget it.
No intellectual stimulus at all.
And the isolation. I mean, no human contact for up to 2 years. You wouldn't even get paper for 3 years.
3 years? Wow. The psychological toll must have been immense.
It was. M. Novatsky's account from 1884 to 1906, it records 3 suicides, 5 prisoners driven completely insane.
Grim statistics. But what's really remarkable here, despite that horror, is that this horn, it actually started to round off, soften over time.
It did. It's almost unbelievable. You see this shift towards, well, leniency.
Yeah, talk about astonishing. Suddenly, prisoners are getting white bread, tea, sugar.
Even money. Money to buy things from outside. Smoking was allowed.
And the cells themselves changed. Transparent windows kept open, light-colored walls, access to books from the St. Petersburg Library.
They planted gardens, like 450 varieties of flowers and vegetables in the courtyards.
That's incredible agency, isn't it, inside a prison?
Totally. Scientific collections, carpentry, smithy work. Prisoners were earning money.
Buying Russian political books, foreign magazines. You mentioned Kropotkin.
Yeah, P.A. Kropotkin, the famous anarchist. He read Marx's Capital while he was locked up in the Peter and Paul Fortress.
So this softening, it wasn't just random acts of kindness then. It feels connected to something bigger.
Absolutely. It was tied to this shift where prisoners started showing incredible defiance. It's like they sensed the times were changing.
Ah, okay, so defiance, like...
Well, get this. Vera Nikolaevna Figner, a revolutionary, in 1902, she ripped the shoulder boards right off a superintendent's uniform. Just ripped them off.
Wow. What happened to her?
A military investigator came and apologized profusely to her.
Apologized. Unbelievable. The power dynamic completely flipped.
It really had. Prisoners who used to be shouted at were now literally shouting back at their jailers.
That's such a crucial detail. So why? Why did it change so much?
Well, part of it, yeah. Maybe individual superintendents being more humane, guards becoming friendly.
Oh, that can't be the whole story.
No. The key factor, according to the sources, was the temper of the times. A breeze of freedom blowing through society.
Ah, so it was societal. The whole system was weakening.
Right. It wasn't just top down. Young people started seeing prison as, like, an honor. Army officers thought shaking a jailer's hand was dishonorable.
A whole context shifted.
Okay, so in that climate, hunger strikes became this really powerful moral weapon.
Because the jailers weren't used to it. They got nervous.
Exactly. They'd sometimes even hospitalize strikers.
Yeah.
And it worked. Valentino, for instance, his 12-day strike led to his release. He even met Lenin later.
Wow. So real results.
Definitely. In Uralsk, central hard labor prison, strikers won general access to outdoor walks. Prisoners felt like, in a way, masters of the prison.
Destroying property, coordinating with outside support.
Yeah, like in Nikolaev, 1906-07, leaflets, Street meetings, they forced the administration's hand.
And the sources say back then the only danger in a hunger strike was, well, the hunger itself.
Precisely. No beatings, no forced eating yet, just the physical toll.
A very stark contrast to what came next.
Absolutely. The fall of the Tsar.
Yeah.
It set the stage for something much darker. The budding of the second horn.
The Soviet era.
Right. February 1917, the revolution, all political prisons emptied. Every single one.
A huge moment of freedom. Must have felt like a new dawn.
For a moment. But then, by December 1917, the new rulers, the Bolsheviks, they realized prisons were essential.
Indispensable, as the source puts it. Some people just had to be locked up, in their view.
They were feeling their way towards this second horn, a new system.
And initially, the promises sounded good, didn't they? Publicly, at least.
Oh, yeah, they promised. No czarist horrors, no forced correction, no silence, no solitary, no single-file marching, not even locked cells.
They even encouraged prisoners to get together and talk.
Yeah, but that quickly turned into something called the pit regime for political prisoners, starting around 1918.
Okay, pit regime. What did that actually mean?
Well, it was special treatment, sort of. Still included cigarettes, cottage cheese, milk, market purchases, unrestricted walks, formal address from staff.
Husbands and wives in the same cell, even.
Sometimes, yeah. Newspapers, books, writing materials, personal items like razors, scissors, letters 3 times a month, visits once a month, courtyards with greenery.
And crucially, no muzzles on the windows yet, those opaque coverings.
Not yet. That came later. But one really fascinating thing in the early Soviet era, the 1920s, was this idea of self-government.
Self-government. Inside a Soviet prison.
Yeah. Political prisoners could elect spokesmen. These spokesmen would negotiate directly with the prison administration.
So that weakened the pressure on the individual, as the source says.
Exactly. And it augmented each protest because they spoke with one voice. This led to what's called a mute struggle.
A mute struggle. A battle for what? Little bits of freedom? Opinions?
Pretty much. And it lasted nearly 20 years. But it's largely kind of lost to history now.
Which is tragic, because it forces you to ask what counts as a victory if it's just erased.
Right. And this period showed incredible civil valor, They're different from battlefield heroism.
Like who? Any examples?
Yeah. Anna G. Blankova, an anarchist, 1926. Kajeletskaya, an SR, socialist revolutionary, 1931. They both refused to stand up for the chief.
What happened?
Well, Katya was actually deprived of toilet access for her defiance.
Brutal. For just not standing up.
And in 1925, 2 young women, Shura and Vera, sang loudly about lilacs because they were protesting rules about whispering. They were dragged up by their hair.
It's horrific.
Students singing revolutionary songs on a transport. Beaten, deprived of water. An SR named Kozlov called the guards executioners. He was beaten too.
So defiance met with immediate harsh reprisal.
But the most extreme act, it sort of echoes the desperation of the Tsarist era, but with a chilling difference. 1923. An SR, Stroinsky, and his comrades.
What did they do?
They barricaded themselves in their cell in Vyatka prison, poured kerosene on their mattresses, and set themselves on fire.
My God. Self-immolation.
Before the revolution, an act like that, it would have caused a massive public outcry, a national scandal.
But this time?
Nothing. Vyatka didn't notice. Moscow didn't notice. History barely noticed. The horror was still there, but the public reaction, just silence.
That silence is terrifying. It's like a foreshadowing, isn't it?
It really is. It's the prelude to the second horn really sharpening, moving from negotiation to just annihilating the prisoner's will.
And that really kicks into gear in places cut off from the world, like the Solovetsky Islands. Solovki.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Solovki. In 1923, socialists transferred there initially had a special political regimen. Things were relatively okay.
But then?
Then, December 20th, 1923, the chief, Nogtev, announces harsh new restrictions, a curfew.
And the prisoners protested?
They did. They decided they'd go outside exactly at 6 p.m., defying the curfew. But Nogtev, well, he had an itchy trigger finger. Before 6 p.m., the guards just opened fire.
Fired on unarmed prisoners?
Yes, killed 6, wounded 3.
And the official response, what happened to Nogtev?
He wasn't punished. He was, and I quote, removed, transferred, and promoted.
Promoted, after ordering guards to fire on prisoners.
Yes. And Pravda, the official paper, ran a completely distorted story, claimed the prisoners attacked the convoy.
Covering it up, manipulating the narrative.
Completely. An SR named Yuri Podbelsky, he gathered medical documents about the massacre, planning to publish them. A year later, confiscated.
So not just suppressing truth, but actively rewriting it. A new level of state control.
And that control just kept tightening. End of 1924, Rumors spread in Solovki about an even harsher system coming.
So the socialists decided to act.
Yes. Across 3 different monasteries on the islands,
Yeah.
they managed to coordinate. Unified hunger strike.
That must have taken incredible organization.
It must have. They gave an ultimatum to Moscow and the Solovki admin. Either move us off the islands or keep the old political regimen. 200 prisoners went on a 15-day water-only strike.
15 days, water only, grueling. What did Moscow do?
Moscow just waited them out.
And this is the key difference from the Tsarist era, right? The silence.
Exactly. Not a peep in the capital newspapers. No student protests like before. Silence was already shaping history, preventing any outcry.
So the strike ended without a clear win.
Pretty much. They lifted it. They were eventually moved to the mainland, but it was a trick.
A perfidious trick, the source calls it. How so?
Their strongest spokesmen, the leaders, were deliberately separated, taken to a different isolator, Tobolsk. It showed the strike had failed, really, and it let the authorities tighten up on the rest.
Undermining their unity, breaking their leadership.
Which brings us to places like the Verkhny-Uralsk isolator. Opened in 1925 under Yagoda and Katan, infamous names. It quickly became a bugbear, a place of real dread.
What made it so bad?
Last bits of freedom of movement. Gone. Cells locked tight. Communication became desperate. If you shouted from a window, guards might fire into your cell, break the glass.
Constant intimidation.
And then, 1928, a hunger strike, described by Rubens, marks a real turning point. It wasn't treated as a solemn protest anymore.
What happened?
Jailers just burst in, beat the weakened prisoners, clubs, boots, just brute force to end the strike.
So the hunger strike as a moral weapon, it was effectively dead by then.
It seems so. It relied on the jailer having some conscience, or at least fearing public opinion, right?
Yeah, but in this new Soviet era, those conditions just vanished. The state seemed immune.
And its decline wasn't instant. It started subtly. Even in the 1920s, declarations were accepted, but strikers were immediately put in solitary.
Ostensibly for honest strikes, but really for isolation.
Exactly. Prevent information spreading. Keep it hidden.
And that was just the beginning, by the 30s.
By the 1930s, the state's thinking had shifted completely. The ideal prisoner. Someone with no will of their own.
Chilling.
So, hunger strike declarations, not accepted anymore. Authorities just declared them abolished. As if you could just abolish an act of desperation.
And they developed methods to suppress them, beyond just ignoring them.
Oh, yes. Horrifying methods. Deception, for one. 1933, Kharkov. A man named Shebatar fasted 17 days for news of his family.
What did they do?
High-ranking officials, even a provincial GPU deputy chief, came personally. Showed him a fake telegram receipt saying his family was fine. He ate.
A direct lie from the top. But it shows maybe some lingering sense of responsibility back then. They didn't want him to die on their watch.
Perhaps some residual personal responsibility at higher levels, yeah. But that didn't last.
Because the main method became
Forced artificial feeding, widespread by 1937. The sources say it was adapted, without question, from experience with wild animals in captivity.
Wild animals.
And done in total secrecy. Yaroslavl, 1937, socialists force-fed on day 15.
Yeah. How did they do it?
The description is brutal. It's called rape in the source.
Yeah.
Big guards overpowering a weak person, prying open their mouth, shoving a tube down, pouring in liquid food, massaging the stomach so they would vomit.
It's a violation, complete violation of will.
Absolutely. Other methods too, enemas, nose drops, and it wasn't just about keeping them alive. It was about breaking their spirit.
And they criminalized it too, threatened more prison time.
Yes. Striking was now continuation of counter-revolutionary activity, and then the final nail. Mid-1937, a directive. Prison admin would not in any respect be responsible for those dying on hunger strikes.
No accountability whatsoever.
None. Jailers were off the hook. They even crossed days spent on strike-off interrogation records, so interrogators wouldn't be blamed for delays. It's total dehumanization.
Wow. There's an anecdote about Arnold Rappaport, isn't there? It shows the futility.
Yeah, it's powerful. He declared a 13-day dry hunger strike, no water, in Archangel NKVD.
That's incredibly dangerous.
He prepared scientifically. Ate only butter and rolls for a week before. Said he felt lightheaded, clear. A woman jailer, described as kindly, actually warned him, stop, it won't help.
Did he achieve anything?
No, he ended it. But his interrogator apparently respected his will, saying, well, now it turns out you are quite a wolf.
A small moment of recognition, but ultimately useless.
Right. Contrast that with the second strike later in Kotlas. It was almost comical. Tragically so. He was just carried off, bathed, thrown onto a transport. Utterly futile.
It really makes you think, When everything is blocked, is suicide the only fight left? And even then, is it resistance or just giving in?
A deeply unsettling question. And part of what allowed the state to get this strong was, tragically, the prisoners themselves weren't united.
Divisions within the walls.
Big time. SRs like Katya Olitskaya felt the Trotskyites and communists were too hasty with their strikes, starting and stopping quickly, which weakened the tactic for everyone.
And political infighting.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Until 1936, Trotskyites apparently refused to strike against the Soviet government, but they demanded support from SRs and Social Democrats when they went on strike.
Hypocrisy and division.
There was real contempt, calling each other rats, KRs, counter-revolutionaries. This hatred between groups, it just played right into the state's hands, deep in the isolation.
And the state targeted groups differently, too.
Seems so. Communists were often restricted earlier, more harshly. Nadia Serena, Yaroslavl, 1928, forced single-file walks, no flowers. Though, interestingly, she got full Marx, Engels, Lenin, Hegel to read.
Well, comfort, I imagine.
While the socialists who kept struggling were categorized separately. Suffocated separately, as the source puts it. They eventually became just, unimportant, impotent, non-existent in the eyes of the system.
Which leads us to the purpose of these special purpose prisons, the TOR.
Right, Tyurzak. They weren't just random prisons. They served a strategic purpose alongside the camps.
To isolate specific types of prisoners?
Exactly. People who were too famous or, interestingly, secretly purged GPUists.
Former secret police members themselves. Fallen out of favor.
Yeah, that term has a sky blue, swampy coloration, the source notes, referring to their uniforms and the murky internal politics. Or those persistent socialists who couldn't be allowed to mix with the general prison population.
And also people too weak for camp labor.
Yes. Kept totally controlled, totally isolated. Old Tsarist jails were renovated, new ones built. Vladimir, Tobolsk, Verkhnyouralsk, Suzdal Monastery, Yaroslavl, all notorious.
And the conditions inside steadily worsening.
Dramatically. Food, okay in the 20s, plummeted in the 30s. Never really recovered. By 1947, maybe a pound of bread, 2 pieces of sugar a day.
Starvation rations.
Light was always rationed. Permanent twilight, thanks to those window muzzles and frosted glass. Nets over windows blocked snow, ruining eyesight from straining to read.
Constant sensory deprivation.
Vladimir Tor even had bright lights on all night. No sleep. Others had smoky kerosene lamps, half-voltage bulbs. Air was rationed, too. Hinged panes locked, only open for toilet trips. Moldy bread, damp sheets, green mold on the walls.
Just a recipe for illness and despair.
Walks, maybe 15, 45 minutes. No contact with earth, all paved. And the command, look at your feet.
Total subjugation, no connection to nature or even looking up.
Visits, forbidden entirely after 1937. Letters heavily restricted. In Kazan, they were apparently returned to the admin after the prisoner read them.
No privacy, no connection to the outside.
And the regimen kept getting stricter. 1947-48, maybe you could get personal items, lie down during the day. By 1949-53, cells locked with 2 locks. No lying down during the day. No talking, only whispering. Personal stuff confiscated. Uniform clothing. Mail only on unannounced days.
Constant uncertainty, constant control.
Violent searches, being stripped naked. Frequent, designed to humiliate, to strip away dignity.
And then the punishment cell, the ultimate tool.
The scourge, really. And not just for breaking rules, sometimes meted out according to a schedule, just because. For coughing too loud, shoe noise.
Arbitrary punishment.
And Curia's description is chilling, unheated, freezing cold, stripped to underwear, bare earth floor, sometimes wet or covered in water.
How does he survive?
He thought he'd die. But he found some inner warmth, learned to sleep sitting on a tiny stool. He also described this psychological game, a provocation.
What was that?
He had to stay silent even after his 5-day term was up, because if he asked to be let out, it would be seen as unruliness and they'd keep him in longer.
Mental torture on top of the physical.
The aftermath for him. Deaf for 6 months, throat excesses, and he saw his cellmate go completely insane from being put in there repeatedly. It wasn't just punishment. It was designed to break people.
So, listening to all this relentless tightening, this calculated cruelty, did we reach the absolute peak of that second horn? Sharper, more brutal than the Tsarist one ever was?
It's a tough question. Opinions are actually divided, believe it or not. Some old camp veterans, people who'd seen the worst, apparently considered the 1950s Vladimir Tor, one of these special prisons, a resort.
Resort? How could that be?
Relatively speaking, maybe. Because you could submit regular petitions, and it had an excellent library. It's a grim comparison, isn't it? Shows how bad other places must have been.
It really does, which leads to this huge underlying question running through this whole deep dive.
Yeah. In this new type prison, this system designed to just crush the individual will, does the soul get purified by the suffering, or does it just perish?
It's the core question, isn't it? What happens to the human spirit under that kind of absolute pressure? Can it survive?
But even in that darkness, there are these incredible flickers of something else. Hope. Resilience. Look at N.A. Kiriev again, the astronomer.
The one from the punishment cell story.
The same one. Arrested. Imprisoned. He saved himself, he said, by thinking about the eternal and infinite, the order of the universe. And get this, inside his head, he started discovering a new field in physics.
Discovering physics? While imprisoned?
Yes. He prayed for help. And then, almost like a miracle, this huge, heavy book, A Course in Astrophysics, just appeared in his cell library, completely improbable.
Wow, what did he do?
He devoured it, memorized as much as he could for 2 days before. Predictably, it was confiscated. But he said that book, that mystical arrival, it opened the way for him. It let him keep working mentally and survive, even later in the camp.
An incredible story. A victory of the mind, really.
It really feels like the ultimate conflict is always there. The soul and the bars. And just as we're about to dig deeper into that fight, you hear a guard's key rattling in the lock. Prisoners are being called out for transport.
The ever-present reality of the system.
Exactly. So if we're still alive, then we'll finish this story another time in part 4.